Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to F1 2019 career mode part number 2. Even though it is the first race here in Australia, of course part number 1 was all the F2 scenarios, but we are going to be getting into it here today with the Australian Grand Prix and our debut in Toro Rosso alongside our teammate Alex Albon. But we're going to be going through the menus, taking a little look at everything that we actually have here, and of course taking a look at the resource points that we have available. Now we need to have a look and see how to develop the car. I'm willing to hazard a guess that, you know, our Honda engine isn't exactly going to be the best, so we'll probably need to look at engine development first, and then sort of see where our car falls in regards to aero and chassis. But, you know, just flicking through some of the forecasts, the weather forecasts, the weekend previews. There's no rain predicted as far as I can recall. I'm sure I'll get to the email momentarily. But should be a good one here for Australia. It worked out well last year when I was Williams' worst car on the grid, and we got points there. So you never know. We could see the same here. Can we try and get points on our debut? I'm probably aiming a little bit too high, in my honest opinion, but nonetheless, we shall give it a go. There's the performance index. You can see we are not the worst team. We're the third worst team, Williams being the worst, then Alpha, then Toro Rosso. So we've got 1,250 points to play with. Here is, of course, the R&D tree. Now, looking at it here, we've got one minor upgrade for the engine. As you can see, the Toro Rosso Honda, ever so slightly worse than the Red Bull Racing Honda. Now, given the fact there Cody's have put them on core performance with the Renault-powered cars, I don't know if that was intentional, but downforce-wise, we're not awful. Well above Racing Point, Williams, and Alfa Romeo. And, of course, there's a lot of minor upgrades there, so we could actually realistically upgrade our aero very, very quickly. There's 7 immediately there. 3 front, 3 rear, and, of course, a drag upgrade. And chassis-wise, not too awful. With a little bit of development there, there's no reason why we couldn't catch Renault and be the 4th best chassis on the grid. Of course, one minor straight into a major upgrade for weight reduction there. So, nothing too awful. You know, it's about scouting out and how we're going to progress things. I think I'm going to just invest a little bit everywhere. Of course, we need to get our engine power up. So we're going to need to drop 500 points on the minor engine upgrade. And if that is successful, because of our opening contract, that should come in for the Bahrain Grand Prix. And then we're going to take a little look at the chassis here as well. Bump that on the car. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Leaves me 250 points. We'll get more over the course of the weekend. So let's get into practice.
Welcome to Melbourne and the inaugural event of the F1 2019 Championship season. The session is starting shortly and there's a real sense of anticipation in the air. A feeling that anything can happen this year, and if it does, well, this weekend could be the opening chapter to one of the most exciting F1 seasons ever. Joining me in the commentary box is, of course, Anthony Davidson. And it's great to have you back again. What can you tell us about this year's roster? There are some new faces this year, aren't there?
Absolutely, Crofty. There's been a number of interesting signings over the last few months. Where would you like to start?
Let's talk about the captain.
Right, well, this is definitely someone to keep an eye on. Well, they've been signed up likely in no small part due to the way they carried themselves in the Formula 2 Championship. They have a great track record of putting the team first. At one of the races, they even gave up their own position when their car had a technical issue, so that their teammate, Lucas Weber, who also debuts here today, could get ahead. That kind of team spirit could take them a long way this season.
Those two aren't the only new faces from Formula 2 this season, are they?
No, this season will introduce fans to George Russell and Lando Norris, 2 very promising young British drivers. Plus, we'll meet Alexander Albon from Thailand, and finally, Devon Butler. Now, Devon was a bit of a controversial figure in Formula 2 last year. He racked up a lot of penalties over the course of the season, including one where he collided with his closest rival. It was a nasty clip. Now, certainly after the event, they were nothing but professional in terms of how they spoke about the incident with Devon, but it's hard to imagine them being as polite about it behind closed doors. I think this rival will be one to keep an eye on over the next few races, as both drivers take their first steps into the world of Formula 1.
Indeed, we take our steps into Formula 1. Now, I'm not going to cover practice too much over this career mode, because it's, you know, there were no real changes from practice over the 2018 game. So I'm not going to bore you to tears with all practice stuff every weekend. Just wanted to get some lovely shots of the Toro Rosso. It looks fantastic. It feels okay to drive. Car's a little bit understeery, but that's due to the new front wing regs. And it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but we racked up some points. Let's get into the real stuff with qualifying.
Good day today. Let's have your take on it. It's been a lot of hard work, but here you are making your debut in Formula One. You must be thrilled.
Oh, honestly, I am. And it's interesting to see so many names from last year here as well. So I hope I can just live up to the team and my fans' expectations.
So how are you finding things at the team? Are you settling in?
Certainly trying to. It's interesting getting to know things at the same time as Albon, considering, some of the stuff we got up to last year. But yeah, it's good.
What are you expecting out of this season? Are you just aiming to find your feet in Formula One, or do you see something more?
I'd certainly like to try and prove myself. That's the aim here. Prove myself and make a name over the coming years.
Appreciate your time.
We're just about ready to kick off today's qualifying here in Melbourne. It's the Australian Grand Prix. The competition is certainly heating up as we head into today's qualifying. Some impressive times showing up during the previous practice sessions. Anthony Davidson, do you think we can expect a similar level of skill to be showcased during today's qualifier?
Well, I certainly hope so. The competition here is extremely tight, and I think we might see some very close times today. Remember, practice isn't just about fastest lap times though. It's about optimization, it's about ratifying your decisions. No one's going to be sweating small mistakes here and there, but in qualifying that all changes. You need to nail that perfect lap or face the consequences, and believe me, that's a lot of pressure.
And as we know, I'm not exactly the best qualifier. Now, we've done one lap already. It put us P15. However, I believe I can do better. So here we go, charging into our second lap and fastest lap we're going to be doing all weekend here in qualifying. There's a lot more ERS management in this year's game than there used to be. So now we charge down towards turn 3, already up on our previous best. Braking nice and nice, get the car in, open up the exit early, then kiss the apex on the inside. Don't run too wide over the sausage curbs or it hampers your exit. Turn 5 is flat. You don't want to use too much curb on the exit as it unsettles the car. Heading down towards the second sector. 3/10 off Vettel's provisional pole time, using a lot of curb on the inside. Then don't run out too wide as that will once again hamper your acceleration. Now we charge down to one of the hardest corners on the track. Turn 9. Brake as late as you dare. Turn it in. Kiss the inside curb. We've used a lot on exit there, but if you don't, you get too tight and don't get the traction you need. Then through the long left-hander as we now get to the fast chicane. Half a second up on my previous best. Use the curb on the inside, then just attack as much as you can on exit, but try not to be too aggressive as you'll go over the curb and that'll spit you into the wall. Now down through the last couple of corners, 90-degree right-handers. It's actually a late apex. We've kissed it, used the curb on exit, and then just a flat, or a more rotated 90-degree corner there through to the penultimate corner on the circuit, which is slower than you believe when you first come in. Then through the final corner, you can try and take it flat, but it will push you wide on exit. DRS open as we charge towards the line. It's going to be just over a 0.6 of a second improvement from 15th to P6. An incredible lap. 1.1 seconds slower than Vettel, and we've beat out the Renaults. We've beat everyone. And I still thought I might have had, so on the in-lap I took care of the car, took care of the tyres, and session ends, and it's a top 10 start. I'm blown away.
New drivers, new cars, it's a new Formula One season. But it's the same Albert Park that we've come to know and love for more than 2 decades now that plays host to round 1 of a 21-race championship that takes us from here in Australia across the globe and the eventual season finale at the Yas Island circuit in Abu Dhabi. We go racing today then in the state of Victoria, where the drivers have 16 corners and 3.3 miles to navigate at an average lap speed of around 120 miles an hour. The close proximity of the barriers makes accidents inevitable, and recent history shows us that a safety car is not at all out of the question. We have plenty of changes to the sport this year, with tweaks to the regulations, a fresh-looking spread of tyre compounds, and of course some changes to the roster of car manufacturers. It's goodbye to Sauber, and hello once again to the classic name of Alfa Romeo in Formula One. It's also goodbye to Force India. They've been rebranded as Racing Point. Joining me to take you through all the action of the 2019 Formula One season is Anthony Davidson. And it's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Crofty. Always happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to getting underway. Last year was Mercedes' 5th Constructors' title in a row, although for the first half of the season it was absolutely neck and neck with the Ferraris. Hopefully this year we can see the chasing pack take that final step, as I'd love to see a championship contest all the way up to the final race in Abu Dhabi. Another story to keep an eye on is the performance of Red Bull, who have switched to the Honda power unit this year. What that will mean for both their performance and reliability remains to be seen.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Sebastian Vettel will start on pole. Fantastic qualifying from the multiple world champion. And it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Hamilton, Gasly and Nico Hülkenberg, Stroll, Grosjean, Devon Butler and Norris, Perez, Weber, Alexander Albon and George Russell, Raikkonen and Robert Kubica takes the last spot on the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Charles Leclerc and Verstappen, Ricciardo, the captain.
Okay, you've qualified higher than we expected, so let's try to build on this position throughout the race.
Crofty lost his mind during that grid rundown. He just skipped half the field. Anyway, yeah, like I said, we're starting P8. Something I didn't expect to be doing, and as such, hadn't really prepared myself for the anticipation of starting on the soft tyre, which isn't expected to last very long. I sort of played around with the, can I do a one-stop? And strictly speaking, yes. But I get the feeling the soft tyres, as they went to near 100% wear, and just the lap time going up, it didn't really look worth it, in my personal opinion. And for your first race, you don't want to be driving the car at 70-80%. I need to get used to this Toro Rosso, so I need to understand what it's like at the limit, essentially. So I looked at the strategy, and you can see this was me here, just recording it, just like, is it worth it? Bung in a bit more fuel so I can actually apply some pressure. But realistically, no, we're going to swap and we're going to go for a two-stop strategy of softs to mediums, which of course, the compound-wise for that is supers to softs to whatever. Anyway, I love the fact they've made it so much easier this year. I really, really do. I've pulled forward the pit stop lap, which is apparently over the whole race going to cost me 0.2, but whatever. Because I really don't want these tyres running out, because undercuts are going to be very important in this year's game. But finally, after all the deliberation, we have 5 lights at the Australian Grand Prix, and lights are out, away we go. Barely any hold whatsoever. We continue the trend of 2018 with a shocking getaway down towards turn 1. We have Lance Stroll and Kevin Magnussen to my left. We cut the corner slightly to avoid contact, and we're nearly dragging Max Verstappen, who just pulls ahead of us there, and we have slight contact with Magnussen down towards turn 3 as we now go to the inside. We're actually up the inside of Max Verstappen, but I'm not going to just turn in against the Dutchman there. He is, of course, in the senior team, and I don't want to be upsetting anyone, but we've retained 8th place of the start. Daniel Ricciardo has fought his way up and is now ahead of Max Verstappen, but I'm sure Max will get him. And this is where we really get to see the Honda power unit in full effect. How close, after my sensational qualifying lap, can I stay to the top 8, or the top 7, realistically, because it's the top 6 teams, and Ricciardo overperforming there, of course, in his home Grand Prix. But we've already got the looming pack behind us. As Kevin Magnussen, with a hell of a lot more power in that Ferrari engine, moves to the right-hand side. We're going to have to defend into the fast chicane. Of course, we are fat with fuel, and thankfully he's on the same tyres as me, so he'll probably be coming in around the same sort of time, lap 6, lap 7, so I can't really complain too loudly. As we come to the end of our first lap, you can see Verstappen already closing up to the back of Daniel Ricciardo, and I'm sure he'll make mincemeat of the Renault sooner rather than later. But you can already see ERS down, so that the ERS burns really, really quickly. It requires a hell of a lot more management on this year's game, and if I thought it was bad in Australia, there are some tracks where it's even more awful. So Vettel setting the pace, pulling away from the Mercedes. We've got Magnussen in my slipstream. He's going to try and go to the outside of turn 1 on the second lap of the Grand Prix. We break earlier, but we get to take the line and just cut him off on the exit, make sure he can't accelerate. And that's actually going to push him into the path of Nico Hülkenberg and Lance Stroll, but position retained. But moving on further into the lap, you can see here Magnussen has got the run on me down the inside. Hülkenberg's up behind me, Stroll's up behind me. We're going to try and carry the momentum around the outside, which we've just about done. Magnussen pinched himself too much on the apex, couldn't get the drive, but he has got the slipstream, and he's going to try the outside once again through into the final sector. So we're going to have to just utilise our car positioning, and we've gone very wide on the curb, so we are under fire early in the race. You can see the top 7 have pulled away, and I am pretty much just a train for the for the back of the field. This is like a trolley train on steroids, quite frankly. But yeah, Vettel setting the pace in the Ferrari early on, and Verstappen, by the looks of things, is about to breeze past Daniel Ricciardo into turn 1, but 31.8, whereas Vettel is in the 27. So we are approximately 4 seconds off the pace. But anyway, you can see me already trying to save some ERS as we're on no deployment. I'm up to high, but Magnussen has already got the run on me on the right-hand side of the circuit. The AI much more aggressive this year. Can we try and navigate back around the outside of Magnussen? Not quite. He parks the car exactly where he needs to, and unfortunately he's going to get more of a helping of DRS down towards turn 3, but we're in his slipstream. He's heavily defending. I'm going to have to go for an aggressive dive down the inside. That's exactly what I've done. Through into turn 3, and we have to then utilise space on the exit, and then that's allowed Nico Hülkenberg to try and get past Kevin Magnussen as he moves to the inside of the next corner, and Hülkenberg fights his way through, and Magnussen went from 8th to 10th, well, in a couple of corners pretty much, but now end of lap 5, we move across to the right-hand side to defend from Hülkenberg, and he just breezes past us in a straight line. So we're going to try slotting up behind him, seeing if we can make the same move on Hülkenberg that we made on Magnussen just a couple of laps ago. But Hülkenberg's so much more planted, so much more committed in the Renault. We're coming under fire from Magnussen, and look at our tyres already. Like lap 6, they're already in the 40%, but they feel much, much worse. So we are going to be coming in on our scheduled lap, which is this one, but yeah, Hülkenberg now free, and he's going to disappear into the distance. So looks like a Renault 7 and 8 by the looks of things. But we're coming in at the end of lap 6 to make our first of 2 pit stops and get off these awful tyres. The benefit that we do have of everyone streaking past us here is they are going to be on soft tyres that also are quite worn out, whereas we're going to be swapping to a set of medium compound tyres that will have more life. You can see Albon started on the mediums, and he's in P18. So Albon not having the best start to the Grand Prix. You never know what will happen as the race goes on, of course, because, well, we, of course, haven't been too quick. So let's hope I can get some pace on these tyres and not just fall through the field, because qualifying showed we have pace. We just need to make sure over the race we continue to show we have that pace. So, through the pit stop phases, Verstappen is 18th. Hülkenberg 19th. Hülkenberg had, of course, just got ahead of me on the road. So you see Hülkenberg, he's retained that sort of gap. I'm not too worried about Hülkenberg, who has gone to the same set of tyres as us, the medium tyre. I'm not really worried about Hülkenberg per se, because he was already ahead of me. It's more you guys like your Magnussens and your Strolls that were right behind me on the road. They're the ones that I need to stay ahead of. But the car felt good on these tyres. I was just making silly mistakes like that one, going over the grass. But we're on for a personal best lap of the Grand Prix, into the 29s, 29.3, and you can see Ricciardo has just only come out ahead of Hülkenberg, so we're closer to Ricciardo than we were, and there was a yellow flag showing, but I'm not sure why. Everything appears to be under control. Now cars are starting to come into the pits. There is a McLaren in the pit lane, which I can assume is Stroll, and there's a smoking Renault of Daniel Ricciardo. That was close, pulling round the smoke against Ricciardo. Get it on a replay here. We just had to dart round him. I didn't expect him to pull over to the right. That's why I had to move with such gusto, essentially. But cars in the pits. More cars are in the pit lane. Let's see who we've got here. Magnussen has swapped to the mediums there. There is Sergio Perez. We pull ahead of him as well. So the pace on these mediums has been solid, and cars have come out right next to each other. You can see Hülkenberg there, and is that Pierre Gasly in the Red Bull? I believe it is. So we've actually been able to close up quite nicely to Nico Hülkenberg. We've been reeling him in on these tyres because he keeps getting into a little scrap. So I can't really complain too loudly, but I'm now concerned the guys behind me are going to try and push the medium tyre to go to the end of the race. So we need to keep our foot down and utilise moments like this where we're getting slipstream against guys like Hülkenberg and Gasly, who of course are going to be scrapping and slowing themselves down. So if it turns out to them slowing me down, well, I might just have to end up overtaking them. But look at the pair of them going side by side. Hülkenberg round the outside of Pierre Gasly, and then we're going to stick our nose in for good measure against the Red Bull senior driver, who quite frankly was not prepared to give any quarter against me. And I've compromised my own exit out the corner. That's put Perez up behind me, and he's probably going to try and have a go into turn 1. I'm up behind Gasly in the slipstream. I can't brake too late, otherwise I'm probably going to hit the Red Bull. Perez goes for a double overtake into turn 1. Doesn't quite make it stick, and Gasly actually brake checks him, puts Perez on the back foot. We now move to the right-hand side. Light contact against the back of the Racing Point car. Go for the double overtake. Can we make it stick? Just about. Gasly tries to come back past us around the outside, but nothing given. No quarter given versus the Red Bull senior team there. And, yeah, it just... The aggressive AI in this year's game are incredible, but Albon's in for his first pit stop, and that means he's definitely doing a one-stopper. So Gasly streaks back past us now. We're going to try and retake the position into turn 1. He didn't really commit to the move, and we've hung him out to dry a little bit on exit, but he's, of course, going to have DRS down towards turn 3, so we need to maybe... I'm in the middle of the track, not really defending the line. I'm just going to brake later than him and just hope to retain the position, which is exactly what I've done, but there's a McLaren just down the road, and I'll probably cover this a little bit later on, but Butler has signed to McLaren, and Weber has signed to Alfa Romeo, but more cars are in the pits. These are, of course, the top guys, so we're not really going to be racing them. They're in the pits, though, so we take them. We're temporarily up into 4th place. Magnussen now, you see, we were racing him in the first stint of the Grand Prix, still racing him in the second stint. Magnussen up to 5th, and I've actually started pushing this stint, so this is my scheduled lap to come in, and Magnussen's going to try an audacious move around the outside of turn 3. Can't quite get it done, but you saw Hulkenberg, once he was in fresh air, started to pull away from me again, so what does that say about one Pierre Gasly? But we're coming in now, end of lap 17 for our final pit stop of the Grand Prix. You can see there are a bunch of guys once again stuck up behind me, but they've gone to the hard tyre. Some of them, Norris is on the soft, he definitely has to pit again, but some will have gone for the hard tyre, and hopefully we can catch those. Who's coming up on the road now? There's a McLaren coming by. It's Weber's on the mediums. I think Butler's in there somewhere. There goes Butler. He's on the hard tyre. So we should hopefully be able to catch Devon Butler. And, because I'm going to be on the lookout for my F2 rivals as we come out of the pits. Here comes Kimi Räikkönen and my teammate Alex Albon into turn 1. This could get very dicey, and we've had to take some curbs to stay alongside Räikkönen. I can't afford to be behind the Alfa Romeo, so we need to try and keep ahead of Räikkönen into turn 3, and Albon wants a slice of the pie on his hard compound tyre, and he's managed to get through as well, so I've helped Albon out there up into 16th place, but Räikkönen fights back on his mediums, but Albon, they continue to go side by side. Kubica, unfortunately, out of the Grand Prix. Gap to Butler ahead. There's 11 laps left in this Grand Prix. Gap to Butler, 8 seconds. Now, we are on fresher mediums, and we don't really have a lot of fuel to play with, though. We passed Gasly, we passed Norris, both guys in the pits. Hulkenberg has come out as well. So, we're 11 seconds. Oh, that's from when Hulkenberg crossed the line, but we now have points to chase down. All the guys ahead, headed by the Racing Point car, are one-stopping or have all made their final pit stops, to my understanding. So we are trying to chase them down as we set personal best lap of the race, 29.1 on lap 19, and we are chasing them down for a chance at points. Now, like I said, I didn't think it was going to be possible coming into this race. Then I saw our quali pace, and then the race pace seems solid-ish, but the AI are just super, super aggressive. So we crossed the line, 29.0. And there we go. So we are catching Butler. We are catching him at around a second a lap. Now, if we carry on doing so, we'll catch him with a couple of laps left to spare. But I sort of hope that this train all has a fight. Now, the train's now headed by an Alfa Romeo, which could be Lucas Weber. There is a Racing Point car falling through that train. There's now a Renault, which will be Hulkenberg. He's now at the head of that train. But in there, we've got Butler, we've got Grosjean, we've got... no, Sainz won't be in there. Trying to think who was in there. Right, Grosjean has an issue, and he's in that train ahead of me, so he's at the back of it, though, so he's only going to impact Devon Butler. And you can see by the end of lap 24, we've easily caught up to Grosjean, and Butler has lost touch to the guys ahead of him, so we now need to try and get ahead of Grosjean as soon as possible. That'll be 12th place, and then we will be on the verge of points, and if we can't get points, I at least want to beat Devon Butler. Jeff just having a little quiet word in my ear telling me to basically, keep pushing, but don't push too hard. Well, sorry, it's one or the other, Jeffrey, my friend. We weren't able to get Grosjean in turn 3, so we're going to have to follow him ever so slightly, but we've got a better run through turn 5. We pull to the right-hand side, we get squeezed slightly by Grosjean, then down the inside, the unconventional overtaking spot of turn 6, but we just had such momentum coming off the right-hander, and that's us up into 12th place, and now we are chasing down F2 rival Devon Butler, and he's at the back of the train, which also has Lance Stroll in 9th, and Lucas Weber in 10th. We have 4 laps to go if you include the one that we are on, and I am now sniffing a points-paying position, quite frankly, but fuel is marginal, ERS is marginal, so we shall see. Can we get points? Can we even beat Butler? Let's find out. It's the battle for 9th between Stroll and 3 F2 rookies with 3 laps to go, so we're closing in. We have DRS on Butler. Unfortunately, he's getting it off Weber, and Weber is getting it off Stroll, but Stroll is locked up, gone wide. He just keeps the position over Weber. That, of course, slowed the whole train down. Butler, of course, on the hard compound tyre, so he realistically is going to be at a disadvantage, but my mediums are starting to wear out. But just having a little look, letting Butler know, hey, I'm here, and we do need to be slightly careful, of course. Remember what happened last time, or in last year, where we were close to each other. He knocked off my front wing, so we're going to have to be careful, but at some point we're going to have to be audacious and make the move, because now there's only 2 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and we are now in the high 1 minute 30, so we close up to Butler through turn 1. We're nice and close this time around. Can we utilise the DRS, although he's pulled away from us out through turn 2, but he's braked very early. It's a dive bomb move versus Devon Butler. It's exactly what he would do to us. I've pushed my way through, and that's how he would treat us, so I'm going to get the elbows out versus him up into 11th place, and now we are 1 position away from a World Championship point on our debut. The man that's in our way currently, our former teammate at Prema in F2, Lucas Weber, and I've cost myself with some very subtle mistakes through the rest of Sector 1, and that's put me on the back foot versus Weber, but now we will try and chase it down. We are going to hopefully be uninterrupted for the rest of the Grand Prix. 1.5 laps to go, 0.6 of a second separate myself and Lucas Weber. Let's try and get through here. Excellent run we've got off the back of that chicane. Unfortunately, Weber also has DRS. If he didn't have it, we'd be able to get him. We're going to take a half-hearted look down the inside. Oh, that's cost us time and momentum. We should have really just kept it cool, kept it calm. We'd be closer through the final sector. As we close up once again under braking, we're just so much more confident on the brake pedal on these tyres. Don't know if Weber's carrying a problem or just carrying worn tyres, but here we go. We're coming on to the last lap of the race. It's Stroll, it's Weber, it's Hull, it's Butler. Here we go, into turn 1, just trying to take as much curb as possible, get ourselves set up like we did against Butler last time around for the best run possible. Down towards turn 3, Weber going to be trying to take a look at Stroll. We weren't close enough, so that is probably one of our best opportunities gone. Lewis Hamilton wins the opening race of the season, even though Vettel showed the early pace. But through turn 5, similar versus Grosjean, we've got a great run versus Lucas Weber, and it's now or never, in my opinion. We're down the inside. Weber leaves us no space. He saw us coming through, and he knew, after being our teammate for a year, we were always going to go for the move. So Weber kept the door open, and we have dived through up into 10th place. I would set my sights on Lance Stroll, but quite frankly, I think he's just got the legs on me over the course of the rest of this lap. So now we've got the position. We just need to make sure we keep it through the final sector, and just need to keep an eye on our fuel and our ERS. So you can see me turn it down to lean and turn everything down and just calm down, essentially, because I think we just might do it. There's a few corners left to go. You know, just hitting our team objective would have made me happy, but beating the F2 rivals is also pretty sweet. But to do it on this last lap of the Grand Prix for a point on our debut is so much more special. We charge towards the line for points on our Formula 1 debut.
Top job, my friend, top job. I was a bit worried about this one at the start of the weekend, but you pulled through. Thank you.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So there you have it. Lewis Hamilton wins the first race of the season from 18 seconds ahead of Vettel. Hamilton just had so much more speed later in the race. Leclerc gets a podium for Ferrari, though. Verstappen P4, once again outperforming potentially the speed of his Red Bull racing car, ahead of Bottas 1.0, who was 51 seconds against Hamilton. Sergio Perez did a fantastic job for Racing Point, and so did Kevin Magnussen. We were racing them at the start of the Grand Prix, but they're one-stop superior to our two-stop, unfortunately. Hulkenberg beats us to the flag. Lance Stroll, master of the one-stop, gets points. We get points on our debut in P10. Fantastic result for us, ahead of Weber and Butler, who both pulled off one-stop strategies. Pierre Gasly, I mean, he's Gasly 0.1 in my personal opinion. Norris, Grosjean, Russell, Raikkonen, Albon, our finishers, with Kubica and Ricciardo at DNF. For the constructors side of things, as the drivers, is where everyone finished. Mercedes topped the pile on 36. Ferrari nipping at their heels, though, with 33 points. Verstappen getting Red Bull's only points. Racing Point looking strong. And we, of course, with 1 point in 7th. Williams, McLaren and Alfa yet to score.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled.
And I'm thrilled with all the support that they gave me during the Grand Prix. They're the ones, as long as my skill, that made this possible.
You left a lot of paint on the walls today. Were you struggling for grip, or did you just misjudge some corners?
Just got my elbows out. That's all it was. Strong, hard racing.
Well, thanks anyway.
So interesting enough, we're going to be getting snippets of the interviews that Butler and Weber do over the course of their career mode. So we can see we've got an interview transcript here from Lucas Weber after the race. So there wasn't much between you and Simon Hole by the finish today. We come from just stuff, words essentially. But he gets more fleshed out answers than we're going to give. But yeah, it was just asking him about us and his race. And it's going to be interesting because, you know, those guys have been putting teams on similar to us, you know, with Alpha and with McLaren. So it'll be interesting to see how Weber and Butler get on over the course of the season. Of course, we've taken advantage early on with our point in Australia. We just need to try and carry that momentum into the next few races. But guys, this has been the first Formula 1 race, of the F1 2019 career mode. I hope you have enjoyed. Leave a like if you didn't. Comment any feedback down below. Once again, I just want to extend my apologies for starting this late. I, of course, wanted to have this up much earlier than anticipated, but, you know, a few bits and or pieces in life. You know, life, when you think you're in control of life, life is kind of like Roddy Piper, you know, and if you've ever heard the famous Roddy Piper quote, is just when you think you have all the answers, I change the questions. So yeah, all fun and games. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed. Like I said, leave a like, comment any feedback down below, hit subscribe and enable them notifications to be kept up to date with the content that comes to the channel. Whew. Points on debut. I'd say this one maybe is even more satisfying than the Williams one, just given the fact that, you know, it was in the closing moments of the race, it was me versus Butler versus Weber, and that aspect of this year's game is so cool, and I hope to carry that on over the course of it. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.